Thank you for auditing Professor Skye's Record Review, the only first-listen new music review show, which used to be hosted by a French professor immediately after leaving the gym. As you know, we're in the middle of the COVID-19 breakout, and I'm on self-imposed quarantine. I stopped going to the gym a little while ago, but the gym is closed anyway. So that requires me to rethink my rituals, how to rethink my actual daily life, like all of us are. And I'm going to be reviewing this album by Peter, Bjorn, and John called Endless Dream. And I'm actually going to be making the argument that this music in specific, and music in general, is one of the best things you can do to combat the coronavirus. How? Let me explain. First of all, music has the capacity to serve as the soundtrack to your life. Now that's so cheesy, it's almost banal, but it's true. I mean, I can think of the song Body Snatchers by Radiohead, and I remember where I was when I listened to it for the first time. I remember bicycling in Santa Barbara and exactly where I was. Like certain music can have a certain resonance with important times in your life. This is, as I told my students, the equivalent of 9/11 for this generation, so there's going to be a lot of very firm, strong memories made. And I think what we need to do is try to marry those memories with good music. And fortunately, that's what I'm all about. I'm all about good music, and I'm all about talking about it and trying to figure out how we can celebrate and listen to excellent new music. Don't just listen to Radiohead. Listen to new music like Peter, Bjorn, and John. So this is going to be one of the great soundtracks to my quarantine, to this bizarre, denied double spring. It's a denied spring because spring is so wonderful. We're so used to the rebirth and the baseball starting and everything changing. But that's denied because we all have to stay inside. But in another way, it's a doubled spring because we now get to go outside and we don't have to work. We don't have to go to our offices. It's a very strange time. And this album, this very bright, well-produced, upbeat, guitar-driven album is exactly the right music for this time. At the end of the review, I'm actually going to buy the record, and I'm going to tell you why you should buy a record too. I think we all need to be supporting musicians right now. That's why. So anyways, I'm going to tell you a little bit. Is it better collar up, collar down? I'm so used to wearing gym gear when I do this. I think I'm going to take my jacket off. It's actually pretty nice out here. So, it's funny because as I was reviewing this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a little bit about my life as I was listening, okay? So the first time I was listening to it, I was, usually I'm on an elliptical, and it's the same thing every time, and I try to type up all my thoughts while I'm on the elliptical. This time I was sitting at the kitchen table, and my wife was making veggie meatballs. She was cutting up parsley to put into the veggie meatballs. So when I hear this first track, music, I will, to some extent, always associate it with that moment. Now, before I get into that first track and play it for you, and I'm going to, and if that track doesn't get you to love this music, I don't know what will. But I'll tell you a little bit about this band. Apparently they're from Sweden, which you would know because their name is Peter, Bjorn, and John. But also, they do everything together. They are like an amazingly cohesive band. Like, what is it about a band? You can hear the birds, you can even hear a woodpecker if you listen carefully. Dugga, dugga, dugga. Anyways, what is it about a band when they list the names of the members, it seems that even though that's more individual, the band is more collective. Peter, Bjorn, and John work just like that. Even on the cover of the album, which I'll show you here, like it's the three of them sort of looking at three different mountains and sort of confronting them together, right, with their musical instruments. There's something amazingly wholesome and together about this. And I'm stuck in the house with my wife and my two kids, and it's great. But it really has this sense, that we're all together. Each one of them plays a different instrument. There's a lot of variations on this album in terms of how the instruments are used. And it's a surprisingly non-monotonous album. And it's got three different voices, and they merge really well. And I think different ones sing at different times. I've only listened to it 2 or 3 times. But still, it's quite remarkable in that way. So, the other thing I'll say was something that my wife commented on while she was making the vegetarian meatballs. Very good, by the way. Parsley will save anything. She was commenting that the music reminded her of Flight of the Conchords. Now, Flight of the Conchords is a comedy group from New Zealand. But I see what she was saying in the way that there's something about this music that just makes you happy. It makes you smile. It makes you feel like they're friends working together and doing something. At times it's a little bit like witty. At times it's a little bit dark. But if you could listen to Flight of the Conchords completely seriously, I think that's what it would be like listening to this band. Sorry for the extra noise. My paper is being blown away in the wind. It's actually getting quite cold. You can always tell how cold it is by how red my nose gets. By the end of this video, I will be leaving Santa. It's a great joke. So the opening song. If this song doesn't get you, you're just done. Just don't listen to this album. Fold your arms, go away, listen to something else. But this song completely gets me. So this is a song called Music. And in and of itself, that is the kind of ridiculously cheery name of a song, which I think appeals to me at this time in my life, where I'm sitting here and things are dark and I'm thinking of how many hundreds of thousands of people in my county are going to get this disease, all that stuff. And there's this song and it's tight, it's cute, it's catchy, and it's all about like the value of music. So I'm going to play you the first bit of it till they start singing. I don't care if I get copyright striked. And just listen to this and tell me if it doesn't lift you up a little bit, but not cheaply. If it doesn't lift you up in a good way. Here's Music by Peter, Bjorn, and John. So you can hear the three different voices all together. Very clean guitars throughout the entire album. Very nice, like, individual notes being played constantly. Very subtle bass. The drumming goes from complicated to simple, like you hear here. And when you listen carefully, you can hear all the voices all together. Okay, I have to stop. But I love this song, and I swear I can taste the parsley as I listen. I know I'm being cheesy, but I don't care right now, you know? Like, why not be cheesy? Like, let music pull you through this. Because you can sit there and, you can watch, you can binge watch TV shows and read the news and the Facebook, but it's music that I think will really actually bring you through. It's actually funny because I have a little bit of a habit, a little bit of a problem playing the video game Pokemon Go. Leave your trainer code if you have one in the comments. And like this has been absorbing me in these times. But it's this kind of video game playing has left a sort of emptiness. Like kind of a void. Like you can win or you can lose. You can't lose good music. You can't lose even bad music. You just listen. So today when I took my walk, I turned off Pokemon Go, surprisingly. Which is a shame because there's so many Machops out there. But, I turned it off and just listened to the music and let the sun come down, and it made me feel better. The next track is called Reason to be Reasonable. So the next morning, my daughter was making chocolate chip pancakes, okay? She's very good at making chocolate chip pancakes. And she just goes, "Dad, why is the song so catchy?" And that's a really good question. A lot of this stuff is very catchy. In a way, it sort of sounds a little bit like Elvis Costello. It's like right on the line between Elvis Costello and They Might Be Giants. So like a little bit too clever for its own good, but also a little bit cool. It just has these great lyrics. You have no reason to be reasonable. I have no reason to be terrible. So I think it's about kind of a breakup. The next track is called Drama King. It's kind of super funky and scratchy. It has an amazing breakdown where like after they sing for a while in this kind of like shuffling, very tight jam, there's kind of a woozy riff. And I will always associate that song with a walk I took while my son was at his doctor's appointment, and I was walking in Brighton, New York. Very nice place. The next track was called Rusty Nail. Now the first time I listened to this, I put, "This puts the pop in indie pop. No good, not my favorite." But while I was walking underneath an underpass in the cold spring light of Brighton, New York on Monroe Avenue, I realized how great the song really is. It's got the best example on the album of the interplay between the individual singer and the three singers working together. They just constantly weave in and out, and it's part of what makes it such a cheery and happy and together album. I mean, they're not doing like crazy Crosby, Stills, and Nash harmonies or anything. It's nothing like that. But it works really well. Also, another one with this track is when you listen to it more carefully, you realize even though it's kind of super poppy, they have this little distortion on the guitar. And there's all these moments throughout the album where there's just a little something that they do that's a little bit different that makes it really great. The track Endless Reruns, very kind of poppy 60s style. This has an example, this and another song, the lyrics, there's something about non-native speakers' songs in English in which they very clearly don't speak English natively, right? I mean, that's not their native tongue, right? They might have native level speech, but it's not what they grew up speaking. And especially in countries like Sweden, where their language instruction is so unbelievably good. Wow, those birds are going crazy. Language is so good. Like, the way they sing is like they're having fun with English. And in particular, with, like, little turns of phrase. So like this other song, Out of Nowhere. It's like going out of nowhere into something. Like you get the sense that they like playing with idioms. They like playing with like little words. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean? And it makes the lyrics a little bit worse because it's clear that it's not like coming from the heart, it's coming from the mind. But also, you know, there's something to be said for wit in music. And they do a good job of making witty songs still be about something. So Endless Reruns, I think, is about enjoying someone's company, which is great. Idiosyncrasy, nice kind of shuffling rhythm, kind of a song about being self-obsessed, which is good, you know, a little bit more personal touch there. That Out of Nowhere song is probably my second favorite. Just a really great rock and roll song. And then comes the Simple Song of Sin. Simple Song of Sin. And for that one, I initially wrote that the uniformity of the album wore me down. But the next time I listened, I realized that there's just like some really good like rhythmic punches in there. It's a little bit funny because now that I'm not typing, I walk, and when I walk, I do voice to text. And so right here, instead of rhythmic, it says good nick punches. And I had to think on the fly, what is a good nick punch? It's a rhythmic punch. So it has like this real punchiness to the rhythm. And then like at the end, like all the instruments coalesce and there's all this like notes going up and going down and just like, it's like this dessert that like should be too rich because it has so many ingredients, but somehow pulls it together. And that's what happened a lot with this album. I would sort of listen to it and kind of dismiss it and then go deeper and love it. The song Weekend, that's the one where I had to kind of re-listen to it because the lyrics seem to be getting more interesting. It's kind of about scrolling a lot on your phone, like I do Pokemon Go. This is a funny memory. There was like, while I was listening to this song, there was this dog. And I was just walking around, you know, just my son was at his doctor, so I went for a walk. And there was this like dog that was barking at me. And that's not a big deal, it's a big dog. Looked like it was part pit bull, so you know, but it was tied up, no problem. And then it starts chewing on its leash. That's not what you want to see. It was fine, but yeah. So I will always associate Weekend with a dog chewing on its leash, trying to get at me. And then it ends with On the Brink, which could have been an epic song. And in general, I don't like epic songs, but it's not. This has the strongest sort of Rickenbacker guitar notes, so it kind of sounds like the Byrds, you know. If you like sort of clean notes, clean guitar, this album really is for you. It's really quite nice. And it ends on, it's sort of an existential song that's kind of an interesting, more developed take. So as I told you, so that's my review of the album. And I invite you, if you've listened to it before, or if you're going to listen to it, put in my comments, what are some memories that you have during this quarantine? You know, what are you going to do to let music pull you through all of this mess, you know? Another thing that I really felt compelled to do is I bought the album on Bandcamp. Now listen, I wanted to buy the vinyl. Shipping was $30 from Sweden. I want to support music, not the Swedish post office. But you know, this isn't the favorite thing I've even heard all year, but I think it's your job to buy at least one album a week. You know, these guys are about to go on tour. Tour's canceled. No one's going out to record stores. Like, all these artists are just going broke. I mean, I'm going broke too, but, you know, I at least have a salary. So, that's just gonna put that out there. Maybe you could put that in the comments as well. You don't have to buy this album. Buy any album. Buy Tame Impala. Hell, buy a Jay-Z album. It doesn't matter, right? I mean, even if you're thinking these artists are rich, who cares? Like, we need to support the arts in times like this. Because the arts, in addition to a ton of science, will help pull us through. Okay, well then, until next time, I'm gonna be reviewing a really exciting hip-hop album next time that came out. I can't figure out what it is. It's like J Electronica. It seems really good. And I look forward to walking around and having all these weird, different memories. Stay safe, stay inside, and I think I'm also gonna start rewatching Flight of the Conchords. Man, I leave that shoe. Okay, until next time, there's the camera.